doorstep, overconfident, underprepared. But good-looking enough to get away with. Both. He's the kind of guy I would have gone after when I was younger. These days I much prefer the company of dogs. Can I see some ID, please? He asks, and I think I'm going to enjoy this. The Olivia Bird that died was my grandmother. I was named after her, so we share the same name. She died. I inherited this house. Case solved. Good night. The solicitor informed me that my grandmother liked to be known as Mrs. Bird even though she never married. My mother, who also never married, preferred to be known as Musbird, as though she thought the slight difference was sufficient to tell them apart. They both had a daughter outside of marriage, and neither of them ever said who the father of their child was. That section on my birth certificate was blank. I imagine it was quite the scandal back then. I'm not a fan of titles. I go by Bird or Birdie and have never felt the need to label myself for the benefit of others. What other people choose to call me is up to them. The boy cop looks a little less sure of himself. I'd still like to see some ID, he says. My insufficient stockpile of patience expires. So would I not, because I don't believe this pretty pipsqueak is a police officer. I just want to know his name. He shows me his badge and it still looks shiny and new. I make a mental note of the name, Carter, and rank, Sergeant. He's very junior, nothing I need to worry about. I show Carter my driver's license and he seems satisfied. Sorry to have disturbed you, he says. Then, looking a little sheepish and stepping back from the door, I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. We have zero tolerance of crime here in Hope Falls and Blackmore National Park, which borders the village, so much so they are advertising for a new detective to cover the area. It's statistically one of the safest places to live in England, and we want to keep it that way. Now that I know who you are, I'll leave you to it. He starts to walk away, and at first I'm glad, but there is something he could help me with, given he has lived in Hope Falls for so long. Did you know her, my grandmother? I ask. He stops and turns back to face me. I'm not sure anyone knew her. Your grandmother was a woman who liked to keep herself to herself. She lived in the village longer than anyone else. I think she was born here and was almost 100 years old when she died. I know she had a living carer. I'd see their red Mini parked outside, but nobody ever saw much of either of them. I didn't know your grandmother, but I knew of her. Was she a good person? I find myself asking, without meaning to. He shrugs. I don't think she was a bad one. Like I said, I never met her. She didn't like to leave the house, and I don't think she ever had any visitors. Strange how you can live in the same place as a person and know almost nothing about them. I guess some people are very private, or maybe she just felt the need to shut the rest of the world out. I can relate to that. Do you know the name of the living carer? I asked him. Sorry, no. Alyssa was someone with her when she died. Actually, she was alone. I was the one who found her, but if it's any comfort, I think she died in her sleep. Something about that doesn't quite add up. No matter which way I do the sums. How come you found her if she had a living carer? The carer was on holiday for a couple of days, and your grandmother wouldn't accept any replacement, insisted she could cope for 48 hours on her own. Then, how did you know she was dead? She wrote me a letter. I can't tell if he's yanking my chain. What do you mean? She wrote you a letter 3 days before she died. Your Grandmother sent a note addressed to me. To the police station, her carer said she couldn't walk very far on her own, but she could clearly walk far enough. He says, nodding toward the red post box, built into the dry stone wall in front of the house. She wrote that she knew she was going to die and when, and that she had sent her carer away because she wanted to die with dignity and in privacy. The letter said she had left the back door open so I could let myself in and that she would be dead when I did. Obviously I didn't believe any of it when I read the letter. I thought perhaps she'd had too much Cornish gin, but sure enough when I did come to check on her, the door was open and she was dead in her armchair. She'd sent the letter second class, or I'd have come up here sooner. Evidence of foul play, I asked. None, the coroner concluded. Natural causes. Well, that's clearly obviously she can't have known the exact day she was going to die from. Natural causes, I say, suddenly feeling protective of an elderly woman I didn't even know had existed until recently. Are you sure it wasn't suicide? I ask, aware of that dark river running in the family. He shakes his head. That's what I thought, but the coroner insisted no. She died peacefully in her sleep in her library, wearing her reading glasses and with a book in her lap. Which book? He stares at me as though that is a strange question. Frankenstein. I remember because her story choice surprised me. I'm sorry, I don't know how your grandmother knew it was her time, but she did, and she was right. I remember the letter I found claiming to predict the day a person will die. I'm sorry for your loss, he says, and turns to leave again. I retreat inside myself a little bit when he says that. It's what people said when my mother died, and it used to make me so angry. I didn't lose her. The word lost suggests I mislaid her, forgot where I left her, as though perhaps if I went to a lost and found desk, she'd be there, waiting for me. What my mother did dismantled me. I didn't lose her, but I have felt lost since she died. Untethered. Alone. This is not the same as that. Thank you, but I didn't really know my grandmother. Sounds like the people Hope Falls didn't either. We might not have known her, but everyone in the village knew the stories about her. The mysterious old woman living at Spyglass has always been a bit of a local legend. What stories? I don't want to upset you, and I don't want to rearrange your face. Tell me. Your grandmother was the woman who died twice. 13 Edens. October 30th. I dream I am dead. When I open my eyes, I don't know where I am at first, but then I see that I am lying on the cold stone floor at the bottom of my staircase. I don't remember how I got here. It's all a blur, but everything hurts. I do remember going for my run, but the rest of my thoughts feel fractured, like tiny fragments of themselves that don't fit together or make any sense. Then I have the strangest memory of another woman in my home, Harry, pretending to not know who I am, catches up with me next. Then it all comes flooding back, seeing my husband with that woman at my art exhibition, the social media pages I didn't know existed, with my name but her face, the police officer, what was his name, saying that he was going to arrest me. I experience an overwhelming rush of thoughts and fears, and it feels like waking from a bad dream to find myself still trapped inside a nightmare. Perhaps that's all. It was just a bad dream, but then why does everything hurt? Are you okay? Asks an unfamiliar voice. Then I remember falling down the stairs. Or was I pushed? I panic that whoever asked the question is here to hurt me. I try to move, but a bolt of pain flashes through my head and my back. Can you hear me? He asks, a face now appearing in my field of vision. It's him, the young police officer, standing there. His too tight uniform, so tight I can see his muscles beneath his shirt. Did he push me down the stairs? Try to stay calm, he says, but staying calm has become an obsolete objective. You took quite a tumble. Are you hurt? He asks. Do you know who I am? Sergeant Carter, I say through gritted teeth. That's right. Now can you please tell me your name? Eden Fox. I tell him my name for the 100th time. He sigh. Your real name? No more games. I think someone pushed me down the stairs, I say, but he just shakes his head. I don't think so. I thought you might come back here, but it took me a while to lock up the station. I saw that someone had smashed the back door as soon as I arrived and guessed it was you. I just stepped inside when I saw you at the top of the staircase. You tripped and fell. We'll have to add breaking and entering to the list now. This is my house. Why don't you believe me? Do you really need me to answer that? I reach inside my pocket for my house key. Look, this is my keychain with my name on it. Eden, why would I have this unless I was telling the truth? Perhaps you stole it. Breaking into a house is a strange thing to do. If you have a key, I told you they changed the locks. I didn't steal a keychain. I'm guessing you didn't steal my car keys and throw them into the harbor. Too lucky I have a spare set. Perhaps you didn't break into this house, ransack the place, and attempt to leave with the owner's belongings either. He says, staring at the bag next to me. I am the owner. What you are is under arrest. Come on up, you get. I try to stand, but my legs give way. Instead of helping me, Carter just shakes his head, as if he thinks I'm faking it. I rarely swear, even in my own head, but him, this manchild, is no match for me. He clearly isn't an experienced police officer. His face is as uncreased as his shirt. If his brain were a fraction the size of his ego, he would realize that I'm telling the truth. I reach up and touch the back of my head. When I look at my hand, it's red. Carter sees the blood too, and his expression immediately changes, as does his tone. We need to get some pressure on that wound, he says, looking for something to use. There are clean towels in the cupboard at the top of the stairs. I tell him. He climbs the steps two at a time, opens the cupboard, then says, "You're right, there are. How would I know that if this wasn't my house?" Is what I want to say, but I'm too busy running out the back door, down this driveway, and clambering into my car. All I have is the bag of extra clothes and the map of Blackmore National Park. I managed to grab the spare key to the Range Rover, and some cash were all I found in the house, but that's okay, because that's all I need to get where I have to go. 14. Birdie. 6 months earlier. I go through the gate and step into the graveyard in Hope Falls with a man I just met. The evening sky is an agitated palette of black and blue, as though it can't decide what to do with itself. A bit like me, a flight of swallows soar and swoop and dance high above us, making the most of the dying light, and it brings another wave of forgotten memories to mind. My mother taught me that swallows always find their way home, and I touched the swallow tattoo on my hand, as though doing so might turn back time. I used to play in this cemetery when I was a child. I remember that too. It was a short walk from where Mom and I lived, much closer than the playground, and memories of reading books while sitting among the headstones fill my mind. I'd make up stories about the people buried here, whisper their names out loud, and play hide and seek among their graves. The pointlessness of playing the game alone didn't bother me until I was older. It didn't occur to me back then that if nobody knows to look for you, you can't be found. I remember the last time I was here, it was for my mother's funeral when I was 10, so it's hard to forget. I never came back to Hope Falls after that. A plumpy lady from the council, whose name and face I don't recall, collected me. Straight after the funeral, she drove me to meet a foster family in London and left me with a woman who used me as a human ashtray when I didn't do what I was told. I've never forgotten her face, all the scars she left on my skin and my soul. Being back here after all this time feels strange, dreamlike, almost as though my sad and lonely childhood wasn't really mine, but something that happened to someone else. I don't tell Carter any of that. It's none of his business, and I only followed him here out of morbid curiosity about the woman who died twice. Our hands accidentally touch as we walk side by side through the cemetery, and I hide mine in my pockets. Rows of ancient headstones line up, or in some cases fall over, all the way to the cliff edge with panoramic views of an unforgiving ocean. My mother is buried here somewhere, and I have a sudden urge to find her, which is frankly ridiculous after all this time. I think maybe we love some people more when they are gone. This graveyard's been full for years, Carter says, oblivious to the thoughts warring around my head. There are no more plots available, but your grandmother already had one. You mean she had reserved a space? I ask. Not exactly. He stops in front of an ancient headstone, and even though I knew to expect it, I'm still shocked by the sight of my own name. I frown at the two sets of dates carved beneath it. The headstone looks very old, and I don't understand how, if my grandmother died recently, the name and first set of dates were clearly engraved years ago, so weathered by the sea and sky that they are barely legible. The second date and the epitaph are much easier to read. Olivia Bird, 1926 to 1944, 1944 to 2025. The woman who died twice. According to my grandparents, Olivia Bird, your grandmother, died at age 18 when she received the news that her fiancé had been killed in the war. 1944. She read the telegram, then dropped dead on the spot, as though her heart had literally broken, and was buried here the following day. The Bird family, your ancestors, were relatively well off, certainly compared with the rest of the villagers. Most people struggled to make ends meet during the war, but Olivia's parents paid for the most expensive silk-lined coffin money could buy. Her body was dressed in the finest clothes, and apparently she wore rings on all of her fingers. He says something else I seem to have in common with Granny. Her family wanted a big send-off, so they splashed out on a huge banquet so that lots of hungry villagers would attend the funeral. The vulgar display of wealth, especially the huge ruby engagement ring on your grandmother's hand in the casket, was the talk of the town, and unfortunately, or fortunately, as things turned out, robbing Grave was a big business back then. That night, as soon as it was dark and only a few hours after Olivia was buried, two men came here with shovels to dig her up. They ripped the earrings from her ears, snapped the necklace from around her neck and started to slide the rings off her fingers one by one. It was the ruby engagement ring they wanted most. They knew it was worth a small fortune, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not get the ring off her hand. They decided to cut off her finger with a fishing knife, but as they sliced into Olivia's flesh and bone, her eyes opened, and she screamed. The grave robbers screamed too. It's not every day a corpse comes back to life. Then they ran through the graveyard to the edge of the cliff where they jumped into the sea to get away from her. Your 18-year-old grandmother was discovered sleeping back in her bed the following morning at Spyglass. She had all of her rings but was missing a finger, her marriage finger, and she wore those rings for the rest of her life like she was making a point. She gave her family a fright when they found her alive at home less than 24 hours after they buried her. Her bed sheets covered in mud and blood. They were scared and confused for lots of reasons, including that all of the doors were locked overnight so nobody could understand how she got back to her bedroom or which parts of her story were true. I stare at Carter and wonder what my face is doing. You surely don't expect me to believe all that. He shrugs. I'm just telling you the story I was told. All of this happened long before I was born, after dying the first time. Your grandmother rarely left Spyglass. She became a bit of a hermit. Old Mrs. Bird outlived the family who accidentally buried her alive and by all accounts preferred living with dogs instead of people. She never married, but she did have a daughter, your mother, who was another woman nobody really knew until he skips over the part where my mother killed herself. Old Mrs. Bird left clear instructions her will that when she did die again, she wanted to be remembered as the woman who died twice. She's a Hope Fool's legend. I guess not a lot happens around here. He laughs. Your new home isn't as uneventful as you might think. I'm not staying, I say, perhaps too quickly. I'm going to put the house on the market. I just wanted to see it for myself first. That's a shame. If there is a more beautiful corner of the world than Hope Falls, I've yet to find it. Carter says, have you looked? He smiles again. My family and friends are all here. I've never wanted to leave. I stare at him. You've never left Hope Falls. Why would I? I watch the news and I've seen what a show the rest of the world has become. Some people spend their whole lives searching for something they had all along, but I know how lucky I am to live in Hope Falls. It's beautiful, safe, familiar. It's home. How can anyone be so happy leading a PG-13 rated life? I think I'd die of boredom if I lived somewhere like this now, and I love my job, which is another reason why I'll never leave. Carter says this isn't the kind of place where bad things happen. There's never been a case too difficult to solve. Nobody has ever been murdered here, and with a village this size there could never be many suspects. I don't know why my bosses think the area needs a senior detective. There'll be nothing for them to do, which is probably why nobody has bothered to apply. Murders aren't really difficult to solve, I say, teasing him. I've seen enough true crime documentaries to know it's always the husband. He smiles and I find myself smiling too. Then I feel the need to retreat. Thanks for showing me this place and telling me about my grandmother, but it's getting late and I think I'll probably start heading back to London. So soon you only just arrived, afraid. So things to do, places to be, you know. How it is, he looks as though he doesn't, and it makes me think that living here must be lonely for someone. His age, what he says next confirms it. Do you want to get a drink before you go, he asks. It's been a while since I had anything to do with the opposite sex. My relationships are all non-stick, which makes them easier to wipe from my memory. So I'm a little out of practice, but I don't think I'm imagining it. A hot young police officer is asking me out. 15 Eden. October 30th. Someone is out to get me. I'm not imagining it. The roads are quiet at this time of night, but it still takes longer than it should to drive to the place where our daughter lives now. Time seems to stretch and contract as though I can no longer tell it, and nothing about tonight feels real to me, but I know that it is. The woman in my house pretending to be me is lying. My husband is lying. I'm starting to think the police officer is lying too. But I know that I am Eden Fox, and that woman, whoever she is an imposter. I hope visiting my daughter will help me prove it. I don't stop even when the car displays a warning light. It's electric and isn't fully charged, but I'm sure it has enough juice to get me where I need to go. The roads are pitch black and all at the same to me, but I think I'm heading in the right direction. Calling them roads seems overly generous when I'm rarely on anything more than a single track lane. Blackmore is full of them, narrow, winding lanes paved with potholes and lined with a labyrinth of high hedges, so you can barely see where you've been or where you are going. I haven't visited Gabriella since we dropped her off 6 months ago. She didn't want to live here, and the whole thing was very upsetting for all concerned. But it was best for her and for us. It was definitely best for me, even if Harrison didn't completely agree. He wasn't the one looking after her. 10 years is a long time to take care of someone who needs that level of attention, even someone you love. Gabriella was only 8 years old when the accident happened. She wanted to play hide and seek in the house, her favorite game, but I'd said no. I told her to go outside and get some fresh air instead, and she wasn't happy about it. I dressed her in her coat and the matching pink bobble hat and mittens I had knitted for her that winter. She was a little madam. Back then, tears and tantrums were guaranteed if she didn't get her own way, but that afternoon she did what she was told without the normal fuss. I should have known she was up to something. Gabby was always a daddy's girl. She liked me, but she adored Harrison and wanted him all to herself whenever he was at home, but I wanted to spend time with him too, alone in a way that an 8-year-old doesn't understand. We weren't always the us we are now. I think maybe this happens to all couples eventually, but some try to hold on to what they had rather than admit it's gone. Our variety of love is like a sand timer. It was always going to run out, and I think I knew that from the beginning. All varieties of love are an equation. Time plus life multiplied by hard times plus heartbreak equals love minus lust. Maybe relationships are just a matter of math. My husband doesn't love me the way he used to, but he does still love me. I know he does, and perhaps that is all anyone can hope for when they have been together as long as we have. Love is more important than passion anyway, isn't it? 10 years ago, Harrison and I couldn't keep our hands off each other. On the day the accident happened, I thought Gabriella was playing outside Like I told her to, it was a very safe neighborhood, so when Harry started getting a bit handsome after lunch, I suggested heading up to the bedroom for a quickie. Back then he could never say no, but with his job and a little girl to look after, we didn't have a lot of time to spend with each other, so when opportunities presented themselves, we took them. I removed my clothing one piece at a time that afternoon, dropping my blouse, my skirt, then my bra on the floor as I walked up the stairs, silently seducing him, wanting him to want me. He followed just like I knew he would, and when I dropped my knickers on the landing, he bent down and picked them up, staring at me the whole time with a smile on his face. I missed that smile. By the time he reached the bedroom, I was already naked. He stood in the doorway and drank down the sight of my body. Even with his suit trousers still on, I could see it had the desired effect. I always wore my hair down back then. It was so long it almost covered my nipples and hid some of the tan lines that decorated my bronzed body. Harry liked to slowly trace those whiter than white bits of my skin with his finger, then his tongue, but there was no time for foreplay that afternoon. I climbed onto the bed facing away from him, got on all fours and waited. He accepted the unspoken invitation, unzipped his fly and entered me from behind. Then I let him do whatever he wanted to me, just like always. Afterward, he had a shower before driving back to work. I lay exhausted on the bed, not wanting to get up, and it was only when I eventually did that I knew Gabriella wasn't where I thought she was. She'd been outside earlier, riding her bike up and down the street, just like children do. She knew not to go too far and she should have been safe. She'd begged Harrison to take the training wheels off the bike the day before, but he refused, said she wasn't ready. When I looked out of the bedroom window after he left, there was no sign of Gabby outside. The guilt I felt in that moment was huge, but the fear was overwhelming. Fear of him never forgiving me if something ever happened to her. I did all the things people do when children disappear. I looked for her in all her usual hiding places. I didn't want to worry Harrison until I had to, until I was sure. So he was already back in his office by the time I called to say Gabriella was missing. His assistant heard the panic in my voice and put me straight through. It was Harry who called the police. He told me to stay calm and that help was on the way. My husband has always been able to keep his head in a crisis. The sky was dark and it was raining. I stared out of the window, watching, wishing, waiting. Big fat raindrops streamed down the glass like tears, but I didn't weep. I sat and I worried and I waited for the police to arrive. Afterward, everyone said that I wasn't to blame, that it could have happened to anyone, that it was an accident. But I have always blamed myself for what happened to Gabriella that day. It was my job to keep her safe and I didn't. I heard the screaming siren of a police car in the distance. It got louder and closer so fast. Then I heard the sound of screeching brakes. I ran out to the front of the house, but it was almost impossible to see anything. The rain was so hard it seemed to be falling up as well as down, bouncing off the ground. The police car had stopped on the street, almost right outside, but at a strange angle. The siren was still wailing and its blue light continued to flash, causing a series of blue reflections on the black rain-covered road. I saw the bike first. It had become a twisted flattened metal shape beneath the cars. Front tires. I stopped and stared, unable to process what I was seeing, my eyes searching for her. Then the tears started streaming down my face with the rain when I recognized the little pink mittens I had knitted. I saw Gabriella lying on the road. She looked so small and still and broken. Then I heard someone scream and realized it was me. 16 Birdie. 6 months earlier. It was me who said no. I politely turned down Carter's offer of a drink. The only pub in the village looked closed anyway. But I did let him walk me back up the hill to my grandmother's house. Even doing this is out of character for me. I don't need a man to walk me home, especially one 10 years younger than I am. I tend to keep myself to myself these days, but maybe I have missed human company more than I thought. When we reach the old front door at Spyglass, with its curious bird-shaped brass knocker, I take out the key but hesitate before using it. Carter looks hopeful, cocky, but still unsure of himself. I find myself wondering, how young is too young? Thank you for telling me about my grandmother. You're welcome, he says, standing a little too close. If you ever come back to Hope Falls and fancy that drink, I won't be coming back. Got it? He nods, smiles politely, and starts to turn away. And I don't drink, but if you want to come in, I'm sure we could find something else to do. His strong hands paw at me as soon as we're inside the house, quickly unbuttoning my shirt and jeans as though worried I might change my mind. I won't. I've been imagining us doing this since we met. We stumble into the quirky looking lounge where everything is a shade of blue and collapse onto an old velvet sofa. Carter might be young to be a cop, but he clearly knows what he's doing in this department. His tongue is inside my mouth and his hand is inside my knickers. Before I have time to think too much about what a bad idea this is, I stare up at the dark blue ceiling covered stars as he kisses my lips, my neck, my breasts before moving lower. I've never been intimate with a man 10 years younger than me before. I think I like it. You have tattoos all over your arm, he says, stating the obvious when I pull off my shirt. I liked him more when he didn't ruin things by speaking. I flinch when he reaches for them. I don't know why some people think it's okay to touch a person's tattoos. They're not a kittens. I got my first piece of body art, the swallow, when I was 13. It was designed to disguise a cigarette burn my foster mother gave me for Christmas when I was 10. She dug her long nails into my skin to hold my hand in place, burned me, then smiled when I cried. The tattoo hid the hurt. Something ugly can sometimes be turned into something beautiful. I'm impatient to feel Carter inside me, but he looks serious all of a sudden, as though he can somehow sense that people have hurt me or tried to. If there's anything you don't want me to do, just say so and we can. I don't want you to talk. Is that okay? I say, pulling him toward me. Carter is a fast learner and doesn't need to be told twice. He has a lot of energy but takes his time, taking me on the blue velvet sofa up against the mantelpiece on the floor. He picks me up as though I weigh nothing, and I wrap my legs around him, holding him in place. He seems enthusiastic to try me on for size in as many positions as possible, and I am here for it. We make use of the wing-back armchair in ways I'm guessing Granny never did. The only thing that spoils it is remembering my diagnosis and wondering if this might be the last time I sleep with someone It's hard not to feel down when you start collecting lasts instead of first. Can I ask you a question? I say. Afterward, as we lie naked on a sheepskin rug, I think after what we just did, you can ask me anything, Carter replies, lying on his side with his head propped up by one strong arm, staring into my eyes as though he might be in love. His face is stretched into a broad smile as though he just won the egg and spoon race. I mean, that was the best sex I've ever had, ever. It was incredible. Right, he says. It wasn't bad. Sure, how do you think my grandmother knew when she was going to die? From the expression on his face that was clearly not a question he was expecting. I don't know, Carter says. The letter she sent to the police station said she was going to die on Friday the 14th, and the coroner concluded after I found her that she did, but how she knew. Maybe when you're that close to the end, you just do. She was almost 100, so you believe she predicted her own death? I ask. The only thing I believe is there is a lot we don't know. We don't know. Death is never right on time in my experience. I don't know the answer, not sure we ever will, but maybe your grandmother knew something we don't, or maybe a company called Thanos predicted her date of death. She believed them, and somehow that caused her death. It can't all just be a coincidence. There's no such thing. Before we can continue our deep and meaningful post-shag discussion, my phone rings. I reach inside my bag to see who is calling. Then I choose not to answer. What was that? Carter asks. That was none of your business, I said. What? Not who? Your phone is from the Dark Ages, he says, laughing. It's actually only a couple of years old, and it works perfectly well. Never understood the need to replace things that are not broken. You don't have a smartphone? No. Why? Because I'm smart. Those things listen to every word you say, and I value my privacy. So-called social media stain your brain, and I don't have time for all that and shenanigans. I only need a phone to make phone calls. If I want to waste hours of my life staring at a screen, I'll buy a TV. He stares at me as though I might be crazy. You don't have a TV. Thank you for the questions and for the sex, but I have a few things to do, so it takes a second for the penny to drop. And when it does, he looks mortified. You want me to leave? What was he expecting? Did he think we were going to go upstairs and spend the night spooning in my dead grandmother's bed? Unless you want to do that again. But to be completely honest, I'm exhausted, I say. His cheeks turn red, and he looks a curious mix of hurt and confused, which makes me feel bad. That was lovely, though, I tell him in the voice I normally reserve for young children. I wait until Carter is gone, then get dressed and go back to the bureau in the hallway by the front door. It's covered in post, some open, some not, stacked in precarious piles. I quickly sort through them, not expecting to find what I'm looking for, not even sure if I want to find it, but sure enough, among all the clutter and chaos there is another black envelope with gold for and the same logo as the first. I open it and read the letter inside. Music. Thank you for joining the Thanos family. You'll find your date of death confirmed below. Music. Olivia Bird. Friday, February 14th, 2025. Music. We all have a right to know when our last day will be, and now you can live your best life every day until the day you die. Music. And make any arrangements with peace of mind. Do be sure to contact us if you need any further information. Music. At the Number below, we wish you a happy death. Day, terms and conditions apply. I stare at the letter that was sent 2 weeks before my grandmother died, correctly predicting the day that she would. I guess she took Thanu's up on their offer, and my head starts to spin with the effort of trying to make sense of it all. I have a logical mind and I know this can't be real. I don't understand how this company was able to predict the exact date my grandmother was going to die, but I intend to find out. 17. Eden. October 30th. Someone is setting me up, and I plan to find out who. Visiting Gabriella will help prove who I am. She survived the accident but was never the same again, which is why I dedicated my whole life to looking after Gabby from then on, but I couldn't do it forever. 10 years is a long time, so I found somewhere else for her to live, a place with people who have more time than I do to take care of her. I thought it was best for all of us, but as I make my way up the winding driveway that leads to the manor, I start to have second thoughts about that. The manor looks like a spooky old mansion in the dark, but that is not what it is, not since a company with a lot of money bought it, renovated it, and turned it into something else. I'm just relieved I finally found the place. Feels like I've been driving in circles for hours. The lights are off in almost all the windows, and when I check the time I see it's very late. Gabriella is bound to be asleep by now, but this can't wait. I parked the car outside the imposing entrance, walk up to the door and push the buzzer. Can I help you? Asks a weary-sounding voice. I need to see my daughter, Gabriella Wolfe. It's almost midnight, the voice says. I know, I'm sorry, it's a family emergency. The only problem with the secure mental health unit is that it is very secure. There is no response, so I try again. I'm so sorry. I know how completely unacceptable it is to turn up like this in the middle of the night, and I would never do such a thing if it wasn't so important. I can't tell you how grateful I am to you and your colleagues for taking such great care of our little girl now that we are no longer able to. I've driven through the night to get here. It's a deeply upsetting family matter, and it is time sensitive, so won't take long. I would just like Gabby to have the opportunity to say goodbye to someone who loves her before it is too late. It's strange how true the lie sounds when I say it out loud. Something I said works because I hear a click. The door is released from its locks and I am able to push it open. The large wooden door of the manor gives a theatrical creak as I step inside, and the air feels immediately cooler, a little stale. This place was once a manor house, but it is now home for young people who need the kind of care only somewhere like this can give. The manor is expensive, secure and discreet. It's where rich, broken people go when nobody wants you to know they're broken. Gabriella did not want to come here. Harrison didn't like the idea either, but as much as I love her, I cannot care for her every day and night forever. Is that so wrong of me? Guilt is a tight-fitting emotion, and I wear it a little too well. A woman dressed in white hurries toward me across the polished parquet floor. Everything she wears is white, not just her uniform but her hairband, glasses, and shoes too. She insists on accompanying me to Gabby's room, which is good because this place is a bit of a rabbit warren and I honestly can't remember the way. I follow the woman. White, the heels of her white leather shoes squeak on the stone floor as we Walk through the grand entrance hall, past a huge grandfather clock and up the steps of an elaborate twisting staircase. I can still hear the ticking clock echoing as we walk along the corridor, and it reminds me of the night Gabriella had her accident. I remember feeling more alone than I have ever felt and counting down the minutes until Harrison would come home and fix everything, but some things that get broken can't be fixed. I can still picture 8-year-old Gabby on her shiny new bike. 1 minute she was there, then she was gone. The investigation that followed the accident concluded she was on her bike in a blind spot on the quiet suburban road outside our house. They said the driver of the police car wasn't to blame despite driving too fast in a residential area in heavy rain, but I've always believed that if they had driven more carefully, perhaps they might have seen her and stopped before it was too late. I hate the driver of that car. What happened that day was really their fault, not mine. I remember Harrison finding us in the hospital, and it was like watching his heart break when he saw his broken little girl. What happened? He'd whispered over and over again, holding her tiny hands in his. She was unconscious, so couldn't answer. I struggled to find the words myself. I think I knew even then that Harry and I would never be the same again. His daughter was his world, and his love for her eclipsed his love for me. Harrison is a man used to getting his own way. He insisted on only the best doctors caring for Gabriella, and when they couldn't fix her, he demanded better ones until there was nobody left to tell him what he didn't want to hear. None of them thought she would make a full recovery, and all of them were right. Over time, and with a series of lengthy and painful operations, her body healed itself, but her mind never did. I don't think we've met, I say to the woman in white, wondering how much she knows about me. Our daughter and us. No, we haven't. She confirms. Her crisp white uniform looks new, and I think she might be too. I only work nights, so I rarely meet visitors, which means she can't confirm that I am Eden Fox. I'm pleased she didn't ask to see any ID, given I don't have any, but the fact that she let me in without checking who I am leaves me with more questions than answers, like wondering how secure this place really is for the residents if they let random people inside late at night. Here we are, she says, stopping outside a door that looks exactly like all the other doors we have passed, except for the name and number on the front. Room 13, Gabriella Wolfe. I'm sure you know this already. The woman in white says Gabriella has been making good progress. I did not know that, but perhaps the woman is just being polite. I also didn't know that the staff locked the residents in their rooms at night and feel a little shocked when she takes out a set of keys. It makes the place feel even more like a prison, and me feel even more guilty about leaving Gabriella here. What if there was a fire? The woman in white takes an extraordinary length of time to unlock the door, and a small part of me is relieved, scared of what I might find behind it. Gabriella was a happy child before the accident, but she was never kind. It's a terrible thing to think, but I always thought there was something wrong with her, even before there was. Gabriella won't be able to say who I am. She hasn't spoken a word since it happened 10 years ago. Harrison took her to see every specialist in the country after she recovered from her physical injuries, but none of them could help. All the doctors he took her to said the same thing, that there was nothing wrong with her brain function and that her Mutism was a symptom of extreme post-traumatic stress, they all said. She'd speak again one day, but she never has. The only thing she does do since the accident is paint. Painting was always my favorite form of escape. It was something I did to try and find myself again when I was too naive to see that I had lost me in the first place. It was something I did for myself, the only thing I did for myself. But the way Gabriella watched me made me think it could be good for her too, so after the accident I taught her to paint, and it seems to be the only way she can express herself. Despite being 18 now, all the paintings she did with me in our old home were still very childlike. They tended to include animals and birds, clouds and rain. Gabriella's face rarely expresses emotion since the accident. There is no real way to know what she's thinking or how she's feeling, but I like to believe that painting makes her happy, even if she isn't terribly good at it. The real reason I came here wasn't to see my daughter, it was to make sure I haven't gone mad and that I am who I think I am. I left a framed photo of the three of us, Harrison, me and Gabby, in her room the day we dropped her off. It must still be here, so even if all traces of me have been removed from the house in Hope Falls, there is something at the manor to help prove who I am, to prove that I am Eden Fox. The woman in white opens the door and flicks on the light inside Gabriella's living quarters, which consists of the lounge we are now in, a bathroom and a bedroom, but I don't see the framed photo I came here to find. I forget to even look for it. I am too distracted by the paintings. There are so many of them, and they don't look like paintings by a child. They are perfect, beautiful, terrifying, because all of them are of spyglass, with its distinct curved roof and windows like eyes. I stare at the endless exquisite paintings of my beautiful but strange new house in Cornwall, a place Gabriella has never been, a home she's never seen. The woman in white leads me into the bedroom and switches on the lamp. Gabriella sits up in bed. She has clearly been asleep and looks startled when she sees us, as I suppose most people would if woken in the middle of the night. Her eyes flick from me to the woman, blinking as though adjusting to the light. Your mother is here to see you, the woman in white tells her. Gabriella stares at me again, then shakes her head. She looks confused and afraid. Then my daughter, who hasn't spoken a single word for 10 years, opens her mouth. The whispered words that come out of it are quiet and fragile and broken, as though it requires a huge amount of effort to speak them, but I still hear what Gabriella says. She is not my mother. 18. Birdie. 6 months earlier. I am not a people person, and it is a relief to be back in London, back in my flat, back inside the life that I have built for myself since the life I knew was taken away from me. Everything that has happened over the last few days feels like a dream. The hospital, the inheritance, the grandmother I didn't know I had, the trip to Hope Falls, the one-night stand. It's all a bit overwhelming even for me. But I will not let this diagnosis define me. Nobody else needs to know that I am terminally ill. That's between me and death. It's time to get back to reality. Back to work, back to who I am now, not who I was then before I knew. But first there are some things I need to know. I leave Sunday downstairs in the bookshop, walk along the little lane that is Seal Court, and step into real London, I hail a black cab to Harley Street, anxious not to be late for my appointment. The fancy letter I found from Thanu's claimed to predict the exact day of my grandmother's death. I want to know if it's a con, and if it isn't, which of course it is, I want to know if they can predict mine. The receptionist knows my name before I say it, which is a tad disconcerting. I sit in a waiting room, something I'm getting used to, but this is not like any of the NHS hospital waiting rooms I've spent hours in recently. This is a private clinic on Harley Street, and it looks like something from the future. Instead of dated, tired furniture and a permanent smell of bleach and despair, everything in this place is brand new and white. The air has a calming scent of a luxury spa, and the staff all look like models with perfect hair, flawless makeup, as though their faces have been airbrushed, and permanent white smiles. I only booked the appointment yesterday, and now I'm here. The Thanos website consisted of a landing page with the company's name and a phone number. That was it. No details about who they are or what they do, nothing. When I called the number, a posh female voice immediately purred that membership was by invitation only. I didn't ask membership of what. Instead, I gave her my grandmother's name that was printed on the invitation I had found at her house in Hope Falls. Because Olivia Bird is my name too, I was put on hold for a long time, so long I almost hung up, but then a voice replaced the soothing music I'd be forced to listen to, and I swear I could hear the woman on the phone smiling as she said, "Welcome to Thanu's." I was given a different web address, something you would never find unless you knew to look, and asked to complete an online questionnaire. An hour later they called me back, offering me an appointment today, and here I am. No waiting list, no waiting. When I first found the Thanu's letter at my grandmother's home, I felt nothing but rage. I was sure it was a con, just another, albeit elaborate, way to take advantage of the elderly and take their money. But the anonymous voice on the phone said that there are no fees at Thanu's. You give us your time and we tell you how much you have left. That's what the voice said more than once, as though it were a line from a script. I might be here in the waiting room, but I still don't believe that a company can really predict a person's date of death. I know we live in a world ruled by technology capable of things I couldn't have even imagined when I was a child, but this just sounds too far-fetched. A quick Google search soon proves me wrong. There are literally hundreds of news articles about the subject, ranging from stories about scientists using blood samples and laser beams to predict how long a person will live, to more recent AI developments involving algorithms that can guess when someone might die with a high degree of accuracy based on their DNA. While there seem to be a lot of companies all competing in the race to create an accurate death clock, none of the ones I found online claim to be able to predict the exact day a person will die. A death date. There are very few details about Thanos online, almost none, but I found one tiny mention of it in a recent newspaper article describing it as one of the world's leading pharma tech companies. Whatever that means. They wouldn't even give me an address until I completed the online questionnaire and was offered an appointment. All I had that proved this place even existed was a paper invitation, and the website. Both looked stylish, expensive, and minimalistic. A lot like this waiting room. If you could just fill out this questionnaire, The doctor will see you shortly, purrs the smiling receptionist, handing me an iPad. She's young, early 20s, and dressed in designer clothes that look like they cost a week's wages. I still can't figure out the scam. I've met more than my fair share of criminals, and she doesn't look or sound like one, but she does look familiar, even though I can't put my finger on why. I think I might have seen her in a film, but that seems unlikely. I stare at the iPad in her pale, manicured hand. I already filled out something online. That's the first questionnaire. This is the second one. It's all part of the process. She says the word slowly and kindly, with a smile so strangely sincere. It's unnerving. Her teeth are a dazzling shade of white, and too perfect, just like the rest of her. I wonder how many questionnaires there are going to be in total as I take the iPad and start answering the next set of questions, some of which are the same as last time, almost as though this is a test. The questionnaire starts with the basics: name, address, age, sex, weight, height. Then there are some questions I didn't expect and feel uncomfortable answering. Please state your annual income. List names and dates of birth for all known family members. Any and all social media accounts must be declared below. Any and all email addresses, past and present, must be declared below. All questions are part of the process. Failure to disclose any requested information terminates the process. I swipe to the next page of the digital questionnaire and see a long list of statements with yes/no options. It seems obvious that I have to say yes to them all if I want to proceed. I hereby agree to install the Thanos app on all my electronic devices within my home and those carried on my person. Yes, I hereby agree that Thanos will have access to all previous medical records for me and any immediate family. Yes, I understand that I will not have to pay for this service, but I will sign an NDA if selected as a suitable candidate. Yes, the list goes on and on, page after page. I fill it all in with true enough answers, then hand the iPad back to the too perfect receptionist. Thank you, this looks wonderful, she says, beaming as though I just baked her a bloody cake. Now I just need to scan your fingerprints. I take a tiny step back from the desk. Why, it's all part of the process, she says again, like a robot. All of our clients have to complete these steps before meeting with the doctor. In my line of work, the scanning of fingerprints is something best avoided. My mind is racing ahead, wondering why that is part of the process. Can a person's fingerprints predict when they're going to die? I ask. She smiles again. Everything will be explained to you when you see the doctor, and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Then, if you would rather leave, you're of course under no obligation to stay. The unspoken threat is not lost on me. I let her scan my fingers and thumbs on both hands, because what choice do I have? Please leave all your belongings, including any electrical devices and all phones, in the locker provided, she says. Afterward, then you may proceed to room 9, where the doctor will be waiting for you. Her smile vanishes as soon as she looks back at the screen. The doctor does not look like a doctor. He doesn't sound like one either. His face is strangely familiar, just like the receptionist, but I'm not sure where I've seen him before. He also smiles bit too much, and I'm starting to think that smiling is compulsory in this company. Hello, I'm the doctor, he says. I'm guessing if he wanted me to know his Actual name he would have told me. He's younger than me at least, and everything he's wearing looks expensive. And brand new, the shirt, the fitted waistcoat, the shiny pointy leather shoes. The room we're in is a white box, devoid of decoration. There are 2 white swivel armchairs, a white table and a discreet camera. It seems they plan to film me. Don't worry about that, he says when he notices me staring at it. Just saves me having to make notes while we chat. Tell me in your own words why you want to know when you will die, he asks with another dazzling smile. He starts nodding before I've started answering, as though trying to encourage the words out of me. I've had a diagnosis of yes, I read that, he says, as though hurrying me along. But why do you want to know your end date? My end date? Sorry, that's just what we call it, your date of death. Me straight to the point then. I guess that's part of the process too. So I can make preparations, I suppose. Say goodbye to loved ones. He nods and I think I've given the right answer, but then he frowns. You don't really have any loved ones, though, do you? What variety of Tom? Oh, is this? His words were a statement, not a question. I stare at him speechless, thinking I must have imagined him saying that to me. He smiles. Except for your dog, of course. We understand that you love Sunday, from what we know about you, and we know a lot. You know when a person is telling lies, so it seems strange to us that you would lie yourself. It's just that you're an intelligent person with an above average IQ. Your score when you were a child suggests superior intelligence. How does he know my bloody childhood IQ score, as does your track record at work? I deliberately never told them what I do. I start to stand. I think I'd like to leave now. Please sit, Birdie. May I call you that? I'd rather you we. No, your mother called you Birdie when you were a little girl before she committed suicide, and that you prefer to be called Birdie than Olivia, and we know you know that with a diagnosis like yours you'll probably be dead before too long. His insensitivity stuns me into silence. Your pupils have dilated a little, so I can see that I have upset you, and I apologize for that. Your emotional response level is a little higher than we estimated based on the information you supplied, causing you further anxiety. Is not our intention, but I hope you can understand our strict guidelines and the need for checks and balances. What I'm trying to establish is, if we tell you the exact date you will die, what will you do with that information? I don't understand how you can claim to predict when you don't need to know. How, Birdie? That's our job. We only want what is best for our clients, and we are a highly ethical company, one which takes its role and responsibility seriously. If telling you the date you will die might in any way cause you additional suffering or anxiety, we simply won't do it. If this is an act, it's a bloody good one. Is he an actor? Is that why I recognize him? He's waiting for me to say something, and the truth feels like the best option. I want to know because there is someone I need to see before it's too late. He stares back at me for a long time, then nods. It's only then that I notice the earpiece he is wearing. Good, he says, as though I've just passed a test. I'll be back in just a moment. He leaves the room, and just a moment feels like it takes almost an hour. I can't be sure because they made me leave my watch and my phone in the locker, and there is no clock in the room. I have never been a patient person, so after what feels like too long to leave me Waiting, I stand and walk toward the door to let myself out. As soon as I reach for the handle, the door opens, almost as though someone was watching me. The whole time, sorry to have kept you, says the doctor. This is the nurse. She's going to do a few tests, starting with a blood test if that's okay. I guess we are still on a no-name basis. The nurse, like her colleague in reception, looks like she just stepped off a catwalk. Please take a seat. This won't take long. I remove my tweed jacket, roll up my shirt sleeve and reluctantly sit back down. The nurse smiles, wraps a tourniquet around the top of my arm, smiles again, then inserts a needle. I've never been great with needles, so I turn away. The doctor resumes his position, sitting on the white chair opposite me, then answers my next question before I have time to ask it. Our tests involve a blood sample, some nail clippings, think of it as a mini manicure, followed by a scan, which will feel very similar to the MRI you had at the hospital but works in a different way. Then I just need some skin and hair samples. It's all just part of the process. I turn back to the nurse and see that she's filling a third small tube with my blood. It seems they need quite a lot. Okay, after you've carried out these tests, what happens? Then I ask. The doctor smiles. Then we'll be in touch. The letter arrives the next day. There is no stamp. It has been hand delivered. It looks just like the fancy black envelope my grandmother received, with rose gold foil letters printed on expensive-looking cardstock, but this time the name on the front really is mine. My hands tremble a bit as I start to open it. People with my condition, diagnosed at this stage, can sometimes live for another year, possibly 2, or they are dead within 6 months. The diagnosis was a death sentence without a deadline. This might give me a more accurate time frame, or it might all be nonsense. I understand enough about pharmaceutical companies and the lengths they're willing to go to in order to secure contracts and make money, a lot of money, and it's often when people are at their most desperate and most vulnerable that they fall victim to huge corporations who feed off despair to fulfill their greed. But Thanos, a so-called pharma tech company, still haven't asked me for a penny. They invited me to see a doctor straight away and haven't even made me wait for the results. Despite my cynical nature, I'm starting to believe they might actually be able to do what they claim to be able to do, accurately predict a person's date of death. If not, it's a very elaborate hoax, and given they don't charge for their services, I can't quite fathom what they're getting out of it. Sunday jumps up on the sofa beside me and rests his head on my lap. We stare at the envelope in my hands as though we are both afraid of what might be inside. I open it and carefully take out the letter. My eyes rush to read the date of death first, of course, but then I read the words printed beneath it several times as though I can't quite process them. Music. Thank you for joining the Thanos family. We all have a right to know when our last day will be, and now you can live your best life every day until the day you die and make any arrangements. Music. With peace of mind. Do be sure to contact us if you need any further information on the number below. Music. We wish you a happy death day. Seeing my end date as the doctor called it wins me. Maybe nobody should know their date of death. Maybe we should all be allowed to dream that we might live forever. But then who in their right mind would Want to live forever, I know. What I need to do. 19th. Eden. October 30th. I have no idea what to do, she is not my mother. Gabriella whispers the words again, her eyes wide and wild, sitting up in the bed looking like a ghost. Then she opens her mouth to scream and a strangled sound comes out. She hasn't spoken a word for 10 years, now this. After just 6 months of living at the manor, the woman in white stares at her in horror, then turns to stare at me. Before trying to comfort the girl, I don't understand what is happening. Have I gone mad? Maybe I'm not who I think I am, but if I'm not me, who am I? My daughter hasn't spoken or laughed or cried or frowned for a decade, but when the other woman in the room isn't looking, Gabriella turns her face towards me and slowly smiles. It's the creepiest thing I've ever seen. I can't breathe, my heart is beating too fast, and it feels as though someone is pressing on my chest. The room seems to tilt, and I lose my balance, stumbling backward towards the door, looking for a way out. This is all too much. She is too much. She always was, and I can't take any more. I used to love her, but now I hate her. I wish she had never been born. They are thoughts no mother should have, and as always, the thoughts soon translate into guilt. Being a good parent and being a good person are not the same thing, and I am so tired of trying to be both. I run out of Gabriella's room. I run past all her perfect paintings of spyglass along the corridor and towards the spiral staircase. The woman in white calls after me, but I don't stop, won't turn back, can't answer. I just need to get out of here. It feels like I can't trust anyone, including myself. The grandfather clock in the hallway of the manor starts to chime midnight as I hurry down the stairs, and I feel a curious sense of relief that this awful day is finally over, but my problems are not behind me. I'm surrounded by them. Now I lock myself inside my car. My hands tremble as I switch on the engine and grip the steering wheel. I drive as fast and as far away as I am able along narrow country lanes, weaving through Blackmore in the dark. My tears blur my vision, making it almost impossible to see, but I don't pull over. I don't even know where I am going. I have nowhere left to go and nobody to turn to. The network of lanes that twist through the vast untamed land are silent and empty. At this time of night, I'm scared and exhausted, and when the car makes an unfamiliar noise, I panic. I stare at the dashboard and see the red warning light I ignored earlier. The Range Rover seems to take control of itself and starts to slow down. Damn Harrison for persuading me to get an electric vehicle. It is out of charge and I am out of time. The speedometer slowly decreases until I come to a halt. The car turns itself off, and I sit in the dark. There are no street lights out here. I can't see anything at all. I am somewhere in Blackmore National Park, but I have no idea where. It is the middle of the night. It is cold, pitch black, and I don't have a phone, so I can't call for help. I don't dare to get out of the car. There is nothing and no one for miles. I wouldn't even know what direction to walk in, and I don't even have a coat to keep me warm. I find the bag I took from the house earlier, but there is nothing useful inside except for the cashmere sweater covered in stars. I pull it on to combat the cold, but it offers little comfort. I'm stuck and I'm trapped and I'm scared. I cry, really cry, and when I close my eyes and rest my head on the steering wheel, I somehow fall asleep. The sound of a phone ringing wakes me. At first I don't know where I am. I'm so cold it hurts, and when I open my eyes I see clouds of my own breath. Inside the car it's freezing. I sit perfectly still for a second, trying to isolate the ringing sound. It's coming from the glove compartment. I couldn't find my phone anywhere when I searched the house last night. If I had it, I'm sure there must be someone in my list of contacts I could call, someone who could confirm who I am, because even I'm starting to doubt myself. But when I open the glove compartment, it is not my mobile that I find. The phone I see is inside a clear plastic bag. It looks cheap and basic, and I do not recognize it. The phone rings again and the display says no caller ID. When I answer it, whoever is calling hangs up. I stare at the screen and almost drop the phone when it vibrates with a text message. Eden, everything is going to be okay. Go to our special place at sunrise. I'll be there. Love you to the moon and back. X. I take out the keychain Harry gave me when we bought the house. It has my name on the front and the same words, love you to the moon and back, engraved on the other side. He gave it to me during a champagne picnic at the top of the cliffs overlooking Hope Falls, next to the waterfall that gave the village its name. I don't know where I am now, rather than somewhere in the national park, but I know where Harry wants me to meet him. I try to switch on the car, but of course it doesn't start, so I begin to panic. I stare out of the windscreen and see that it is dawn. There is just a sliver of light on the dark horizon, but it's enough for me to finally see where I am. Hope Falls is visible in the distance, a mile away at most. I was so close, but I was so lost I didn't know it. I grab the phone, clamber out of the car, and start to run down the hill and along the deserted country lanes into Hope Falls and toward the sea. I run past the saltwater gallery where I should have had my first exhibition last night. I run past the Smuggler's Inn and the Driftwood Cafe. Everything is perfectly still and calm and quiet. Too quiet. The silence swells like the incoming tide, and I know it might drown me. I'm so tired I can't think straight. But I'll be okay once I see Harrison again. I just need to know that he still loves me. He said to me at sunrise, and I just hope I'm not too late. I reach the church and run up the coast path towards the cliffs. I pass an old man walking his dog, but there's nobody else out and about at this early hour. The sea gets louder the farther I run away from the village, the thoughts swirling inside my head aloud too. And running is normally the only thing that can silence them, but not today. Can I really trust Harrison after the last 24 hours? I don't have a choice. I don't have anyone else to turn to or anywhere else to go. And despite everything, I still love him. When I reach the top of the cliffs, Harrison isn't there. I'm too hot after running up the hill, so I pull off the pretty cashmere sweater covered in stars and drop it on the ground. Then I try to catch my breath, but it does not want to be caught. I take out the phone I found in the car, but there is no signal up here, so I slip it back inside the bag I found it in and into my pocket. Then I stand at the edge of the cliff while I wait for my husband, peering down at an angry sea and the giant waves crashing on the rocks below, wondering how and why my life has unraveled the way it has, as though I don't already know. I try to reassure myself that there is a way to fix this, remind myself that hearts that get broken can mend, but maybe there are some truths we can never really outrun. The past is a stalker following us throughout our lives, never completely out of sight, never far away enough to forget to fear, and guilt is a thief that will steal everything if you let it catch up with you. I noticed the suicide hotline poster and stepped back from the cliff edge. I'm an idiot for standing so close. I could have slipped and tumbled to my death. Maybe I'm a fool for coming here at all. How can I possibly trust Harry now? I must be crazy. We shouldn't meet here. We should meet somewhere public. Somewhere safe. I'm about to leave when I hear someone on the path behind me. Soon after that, I am falling through a waterfall. My body twists and turns and spins until it smashes onto the rocks at the bottom of the cliff. The pain is intense but lasts less than a second. If anyone says she didn't feel a thing, they are wronged. I felt everything I have ever felt when I was dying. The last thought I have before I die surprises me. True love kills. 20. Harrison. October 31st. Someone knocking on the door downstairs wakes me. It takes a few seconds to remember where I am, the London flat or the Cornish village we moved to a few weeks ago. I've never been a fan of change. It's early, still dark, but my tired eyes adjust to the light, and I recognize the bedroom my wife recently decorated. Spyglass was never my idea of a dream home. I always thought it looked old and creepy, built into the cliff, but Eden loves it. Sometimes I wonder if she loves this house more than she loves me. Whoever is outside knocks again. My head clears, throat hurts the way it always does when I drink these days. Memories of the art gallery in Hope Falls and Eden's exhibition flood my mind, and I think I might have had one too many glasses of Malbec. I reached for the empty space on the bed next to me on autopilot before clocking the pillow that has not been slept on. The sound of knocking starts again, louder this time, more insistent. Whoever it is clearly isn't going to go away. I sit up, stand up, and the bedroom seems to tilt, then blur. It's as though everything is out of focus. It feels like the mother of all hangovers, and yet I didn't drink that much. I put on my glasses. They don't help with the disorientation, but I can see that I've slept in my clothes. That's strange. Now I think about it, I don't actually remember going to bed last night. I must have been really out of it when whoever is downstairs knocks. Again, something inside me snaps and I stomp out of the room and down the stairs, ready to take my hangover out on whoever has woken me. I unlock the door and yank it open. All the angry words I rehearsed retreat when I see the young police officer from yesterday standing on my doorstep. Sergeant Carter was here last night, before my wife's exhibition, and then again afterward when we discovered we had been burgled. But he looks different today, almost as though he has aged overnight. He's still just a boy, and it's hard to take someone so young and inexperienced seriously. He can only be a few years older than my daughter. May I come in? I step aside without answering, a silent invitation to enter our home. Is everything all right? I ask, already knowing that it isn't. If it were, he would not be here. I lead him through to the kitchen. The glass has been swept away, but the back Door is boarded up, a reminder that someone broke in and ransacked the place while we were at the gallery last night. Maybe that's what this is about. Would you like some coffee? I'm making one for myself anyway. No, thank you, he says. When did you last see your wife? I stop and turn to face him. It's not a difficult question, but I hesitate before answering it, mainly because my mind is working overtime to understand why he is asking. Last night when you were here, I keep thinking that if clears throat, we hadn't stayed for a drink with the gallery owner after everyone else left, we might have caught whoever did this in the act. We had a little nightcap after you left, then we went to bed, or at least I did. I think Eden was still buzzing from the exhibition, so she stayed up a while longer. Where is my wife? I do not ask the question out loud, but I am increasingly desperate to know the answer. I keep expecting her to walk in the room. I confess I don't know where Eden is now. You knocking on the door woke me up. She does disappear sometimes to go for a run. There's no easy way to say this. The boy cop interrupts and my blood seems to turn cold in my veins. I'm sorry to inform you that a woman matching your wife's description was seen running up to the cliffs this morning by a man walking his dog. He said she looked distracted and upset, that it was clear she'd been crying. When he walked back the way he came, he'd found some clothing abandoned near the waterfall. He's talking about the local suicide spot, but I'm still not sure why he is telling me this, or maybe I just don't want to know. Do you recognize this? He asks, showing me a picture on his phone of a pale grey sweater covered in stars. It's Eden's. My reply is so quiet I'm surprised he hears it. You're sure? Yes, I bought it for her. It was found by the cliffs on the coast path, he says, then pauses as though waiting for me to fill in the gaps. I don't want to. An uncomfortable silence parks itself between us like a no man's land of unspoken words. Then he stares at me and I stare at him, both trying to process the things we think but don't say. I blink first. Are you saying that my wife has committed suicide? No, we can't be sure of anything yet, he tells me, but his face says something different. We know that your property was broken into and that her car was stolen last night by that woman pretending to be Eden. Have you found her? Have you found the car? No, this must be a mistake. My wife was here last night, I start to say, then I begin to frantically search for Eden. I leave the kitchen without a word of explanation and look in every room downstairs. When I don't find her there, I run upstairs and do the same. I end my search in our bedroom where her side of the bed has clearly not been slept in. I snatch my mobile phone from the bedside table, impatiently stab the screen with my finger, find my recent calls and dial Eden. I experience a full range of emotions in the next few seconds. When I hear a phone ringing in the distance, I follow the sound running so fast down the old stairs I almost fall. The top step is bigger than the rest and a terrible trip hazard. I hurry back into the kitchen where the police officer is waiting. The ringing has stopped, so I dial my wife's number again. The sound is definitely coming from this room. I trace it to a kitchen drawer next to where the boy cop is standing. I yank the drawer open, and there, right at the back, is Eden's phone. What a strange place for it to be. The unspoken question is too clear's throat, loud. Now, is my wife dead? I ask. It's too Early to I am intolerant so. Please don't, is my wife dead? I'm very sorry, I think she might be 21. Birdie. October 31st. I think I might be winning at life for a change. It was surprisingly easy and dirt cheap to rent a room above the in Hope Falls at this time of year. Without the tourists, the place is a bit of a ghost town, not at all like the bustling and vibrant village I remember it being when I was a child. Every single room at the Smuggler's Inn was available, and I was able to take my pick. I chose the one at the end of the corridor, farthest away from the bar and the other empty rooms overlooking the harbour with a wonderful view of the sea. It's quiet, peaceful, private, just what I needed. My boss in London was shocked when I said that I wanted to quit. I didn't tell him the real reason why. I haven't told anyone that I'm ill. I don't see the point. I don't need or want their sympathy. People give away stories like sweets at Halloween, and swallowing too many can make a person feel sick. People are grief vampires. They just want to suck on your sorrow, feed on your fear, and feast on your failures. It makes them feel better about themselves. What I need is to make the most of the time I have left, and that's what I'm doing by returning to where my story started, Hope Falls. Being here feels like being a tourist of my own past. I was born here, and it feels as though the place has been calling me back, or maybe it's her. Now that I know I'm dying, I find myself wanting to visit my mother's grave and talk to her in a way I never did when she was alive. I never knew my father. She wouldn't even tell me his name, so she was all I had. I've spent years hating her for leaving me, and now I miss her more than I ever did before. I'm stuck somewhere between hate and forgiveness, and I don't pretend to understand it. Some people leave a mark on your life, others leave a stain. My mother left me when I needed her the most. What an unforgivable thing to do. I try not to think about the past too much. Mining my memories only seems to result in disappointing nuggets of regrets and mistakes. I've taken a few too many wrong turns, but it's never too late to try to steer your life back on track. It took a couple of months to make all the necessary arrangements, but once I was ready, it all happened pretty fast. In the last few weeks I have quit my job, sold my flat in London, given away almost all my belongings, even my precious books. Can't take them with me once I'm dead. Then I packed a single suitcase and moved here with Sunday. According to Thanos, I had just enough time to make some changes to my life. So that's what I'm doing. Today is the first day of the end of my life, and I plan to make it a good one. I shower and dress, putting on my normal uniform of a white shirt, tweed jacket and skinny jeans, because some things never change. Then I polish my shoes until they shine. Before tying the laces into perfect bows, I put on my glasses, examine my reflection, turn my head from side to side and see that my braids are perfectly symmetrical. I'm ready. It's still a smidgen too early, so I walk into the village with Sunday by my side. We make our way along the coast path where the sea is wild and rough and loud today. There is something calming about being surrounded by something more powerful than you, and being this close to the ocean makes me feel alive. Huge waves taller than me crash against the mighty granite walls of the harbour, and I see a storm on the horizon. I stop at the Driftwood Cafe on the corner, where I'm the only customer, and order 2 cups of coffee. The place looks like it was last decorated in the 70s, and It's crammed full of carved pumpkins and Halloween knickknacks. I like the decorations, I say sincerely. Halloween has always been my favorite holiday. I like your tattoo, replies the old woman standing behind the counter. As she gives me my change, she has a thick Cornish accent that reminds me of my childhood. I thank her and stare at the swallow on my hand, a reminder that some birds fly far from home but return eventually. Swallows leave these shores because they have to, and because they learned over time to come back to the place they are born only when it is safe to do so. I can relate in more ways than one. You seem to be the only place in Hope Falls ready for Halloween, I say, admiring the assortment of pumpkins. The cafe owner grins. Most folks in the village make a point of only celebrating the Day of the Dead. It's a local tradition, but at my age, every holiday is worth celebrating, she says with a twinkle in her eye. I tell my face to smile and take my coffee, then I hot-foot it out of there and walk along the cobbled streets past the pretty pastel-coloured terrace houses and make my way towards the little cottage with the blue door at the end of the lane. If it weren't for the old-fashioned police station sign, you would never know that's what it was. My steps seem as unsure of themselves as I am now that I'm here, so I stop for a moment to enjoy the view while I still can. Sunday sits down by my side as though doing the same. I take a deep breath, then I take one last look around, hopeful as it is now, wanting to enjoy this last moment of freedom. Nothing will be the same once they know who I am and what I've done. I compose my thoughts, forget my feelings, and step inside the police station. It's time to confess. 22. Harrison. I confess that what Sergeant Carter says about my wife knocks me for six. I managed to keep it together until he leaves my house, then I fall apart. I make myself drink some coffee. I need something to steady my nerves, but then I see Eden standing in the corner of the kitchen staring at me and drop my cup. My wife isn't really there, it's just my imagination. But the white porcelain has smashed into 100 tiny pieces and there is spilled coffee all over the floor. I stand and stare at it as though I don't know what to do. I'm too used to other people clearing up my mess, and what a mess this is. The police think my wife has killed herself. My mind pivots from my wife to my PA. I need to call her, get her to cancel my meetings and rearrange my day. This could not have come at a worse time for the company. I should be in London, not here, but I'm guessing it would look bad if I left Hope Falls now. That's probably not what a grieving husband would do. I step on a shard of porcelain, clears throat, and my foot bleeds onto the floor. I need to keep my air together. The boy cop asked a lot of questions before he left, and I'm worried I shouldn't have answered them, but I'm not a suspect. There is no suggestion that a crime has taken place. They think Eden killed herself, and it would be strange if I didn't cooperate. But I do feel strange, a little dizzy, discombobulated, as though none of this is real. Not that I could ever say that out loud. I am not the kind of man who gets broken even when I lose everything I love most. I know this about myself because I've had practice. We all just play the parts life gives us, but I seem to have forgotten my lines. I don't have a script for this. There is no prepared media-friendly statement that someone else has written for me to read. I'm struggling to Remember how to be the man people expect me to be, the person they clears throat all think I am. Harrison. Wolf CEO, fearless, powerful, honest. Then I sink down onto the floor because right now I am none of those things. I need to understand what happened, but I can't think straight. The wars are closing in. I have to know the truth. But it feels like I can't breathe. Is my wife really dead? I have a word with myself, several in fact, then put myself up. I shower and shave and put on my favorite suit. It feels like my armor, and I need it today. Then I see my wife's wedding and engagement rings left abandoned on the bedside table. As soon as I have composed myself, I head to the police station in the village. Sergeant Carter said if I thought of anything that might help them find out what happened to Eden, I should tell him straight away, so that's what I'll do. Even though I would rather nobody ever finds out what she did, I do want them to find her. 23, Birdie. I finally found you, I say, stepping inside the police station. It's you, Carter replies, his face a pretty picture of shock. It's been a while since we last met. I'm impressed he remembers me. Carter is alone and sitting behind a desk that looks too big for him. He's listening to what looks like an old Walkman with his feet up on the desk. I notice how neat and tidy it is, just like the man himself. His uniform is pristine and his hair looks as though he just combed it. His expression is one of surprise and something else I can't quite put my finger on. The first and last time I saw him was 6 months ago, but he looks different, tired, older, hopefully none the wiser. I remember how we stood side by side standing over my grandmother's grave while he told me why she was known as the woman who died twice. Then he walked me home and we had sex. He would have stayed the night if I hadn't asked him to leave. I'm guessing he didn't expect to see me again after that, which might explain his expression. His face looks like he just drank a pint of piss. You remember me then? I ask, stepping inside the station and closing the door behind me. Carter pulls off his headphones and removes his feet from their desk. He stares at me, then at Sunday, as though he might be afraid of us both, which is just silly. I'm aware that I'm an acquired taste, but my dog is a sheep in wolf's clothing. I give Carter a moment to get over the shock of seeing me and take in my surroundings. The station used to be a fisherman's cottage, and it still looks like one. Of course I remember you, Carter says, eventually, as though his pause button has been released. He sounds unsure and I raise an eyebrow. Mrs. Bird's granddaughter, he adds, as though trying to prove it. He can't even remember my name. Carter's cheeks turn a surprisingly vibrant shade of red. He clearly remembers some of the things we did that night, and I feel a tad sorry for him. He's a good 10 years younger than me, perhaps not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I'm aware that he didn't know what or who he was getting himself into when he knocked on my door that night. I don't understand why he looks so guilty when he's got no reason to be. It isn't as though he could have called me even if he wanted to. I never gave him my number. Maybe I hurt his feelings and he's still upset about it. Even if the silly twit can't remember my name, you can call me Birdie, I say, putting one of the coffees I just bought on his desk. He stares at it, then at me. He doesn't touch the drink. He looks horribly young to me today, almost childlike. I wonder if I look dreadfully old to him. Carter squirms in his seat. I'm Afraid things are a little busy around. Here today in Hope Falls, strangely. Yes, did someone steal a fishing net? I thought that was funny, but he doesn't. Laugh, look, I'm sorry to burst in here. Out the blue, but I wanted to talk to you, and normally I would love a catch up with an old friend. I suggest trying to help him out. Exactly, it's just that now is not a good time. I'm very busy in this sleepy village where you said nothing ever happens. A woman is missing, he says, as though trying to impress me. It's almost always the husband, I remind him. Then I take a sip of my coffee and perch on the edge of Carter's desk. He looks appalled and stares at me as though I might be dangerously stupid. Dangerous, yes. Stupid, never. Sorry, but I don't have time to catch up today, he says, standing and stepping away from the desk I'm sitting on. He grabs his coat from the stand. There's a new detective in town. They picked one hell of a first day, and I'm heading out to meet them now, so you'll have to excuse me. Before you go, there is something I need to confess, I tell him, and his eyes dart to my stomach. I'm not pregnant, if that's what you're thinking, I say, unable to hide the horror of such a thought from my voice. He breathes a visible sigh of relief, and I can't help feeling insulted. Carter's patience has clearly expired, and he heads towards the door. I don't have time for this, whatever this is. It was you who put the idea in my head, I say. What idea? Could we perhaps do this another time? I can't be late meeting a new detective. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You already have. It takes so long for the penny to drop. I'm surprised he passed the entrance exam. His mouth forms a perfect O and opens and closes like a goldfish. I almost feel sorry for him, almost. You can still call me Birdie, but officially it's DCI Olivia Bird. I'm your new boss. 24. Carter. You're the new detective in Hope Falls. I ask. She can't be. This must be a mistake, anything but the truth. Well, Hope Falls in some neighboring towns and villages, but I'll be based here. I stop and stare at her, but I don't answer. I take in the long, plaited dark hair, tweed jacket, whites shirt and skinny jeans. The red leather satchel on her shoulder looks more like something a child would take to school. And along with all the rings on her fingers, the tattoo on her hand, the great big bloody wolf by her side, this woman does not look like a detective, let alone a senior one, despite advertising for a senior detective for 6 months and finding nobody suitable. My bosses refuse to promote me, even though I've been here for years, and now, instead of giving me the job I deserve, they send her. This isn't happening. She cannot be my new boss, and I can't seem to find the right words. Then a few wrong ones rush out all at once, tripping over themselves. Is this a joke? It sounds rudder out loud than it did in my head, but the corners of her mouth turn upward into what passes as a smile. I know it's madness, she says. I've heard they let women vote these days too, and as if that weren't bad enough, now there's a female DCI in Hope Falls. What is the world coming to? But that would mean that you're my boss. Yes, I am your new boss. Sorry about that. I'm hoping it won't be too much of a problem for you, and just so you know, I actually have very strict rules about not sleeping with people I work with, especially those who are under me, so to speak, but I wasn't your boss when we did what we did, so I'm hoping we can just put all of that behind us, start again, reset. What do you reckon? I don't know what to say. Well, congratulations might have been nice. or welcome to Hope Falls, or I'm thrilled I get to work with someone so experienced who can probably teach me more about being a detective in one day than I will have learned sitting around here for the last few years. I don't respond well to sarcasm, and in this situation I can't seem to form a response at all. I've slept with my boss, I've seen her naked, I'm picturing that and all the things we did, and I realize I'm just staring at her. Do you need switching off and on again? She asks. What? Never mind, perhaps you could tell me why today is so busy. Woman is missing, another suspected suicide. Why, you say another? How many have there been? The waterfall at the top of the cliff is a popular suicide spot. We get a lot of jumpers, especially at this time of year, I say. Then I remember that my new boss's mother killed herself. That's why she left Hope Falls when she was a child. And it's probably not what she wants to be reminded of on her first day. I'm making a terrible first impression. My mind races ahead to all the reasons why her being here is bad. Then my mind wanders back to that night when I met her at Spyglass. I fancied Birdie the first time I saw her. She has a certain quality, a quirky uniqueness that I can't quite put my finger on. I doubt I would have done what I did if I'd thought I'd ever see her again, but she wasn't coming back and invited me in. How was I supposed to say no? I've never had sex like that before or since. I remember kissing her, I remember her, I remember the taste of her. Carter, sorry, what? I asked you a question and you're just staring into space. Have you had a stroke? I don't think so. What do I call you now? Birdie, I told you that already. Try to keep up. Seems a little informal. I find things tend to be less formal when you've seen a person naked. I can feel my cheeks burning. Was there a witness to this suspected suicide? She asks. Doug Walker saw a woman running up the coast path to the cliff. Did they see her jump off it? I shake my head. Have you found a body? I start to shake my head again. Use your words, Carter. No. How long ago was the woman reported missing? She wasn't. So you haven't found a body and nobody has been reported missing, but you think there has been a suicide because I just formally interviewed the husband, and I have reason to suspect you did. What? I get that you're bored, but you can't just invent crimes to investigate. There have been some strange going on up at their house the last couple of days. Strange going on. Don't stand up in court. On what grounds did you interview the husband of a woman who has not been reported missing? Because you think she might have committed suicide. I hate the way she is looking at me right now. I hate that she is here at all. When I got the call to say a new detective was starting today, I imagined a man, someone I could look up to and learn from. She doesn't even look like a detective, and even her dog is staring at me as though I'm an idiot. I'm not. The husband came here voluntarily, said he had something to tell me. Is there transcript? She asks. No, you didn't record it. Yes, but on tape. I was just listening back to it when you walked in. Tape? Yes, we still use cassettes here. You can borrow my Walkman if you'd like to listen. Have I accidentally time-raveled? Is this the 80s? My predecessor liked doing things the old way. He said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm more of an if it's not broke, break it woman when it comes to getting the job done. Sounds like I arrived in Hope Falls just in time. She reaches inside her jacket pocket and takes out a small leather notebook. Then she takes out a pen and clicks the top Of it, what is the husband's name? She asks. Harrison Wolf and his missing wife Eden Fox, she writes down there. Names proper old school, but then she is older than me, by far the oldest and sexiest woman I've ever slept with, and the scariest. Earth to car, what quit? Picturing me naked, she says, and I feel my cheeks burn. I'm your boss now. You're going to have to get used to it. Her words feel like a slap. I don't have time to listen to a tape, but I want to know what the husband had to say. Transcribe the interview or find an app to do it for you, then email it to me. I'll be in my office. I look around the station that consists of just this one room and just one desk, mine. Your office, I ask. Yes, also known as the Smuggler's Inn. You're going to the pub now this morning? Well, I can't work here. This place is depressing. I thought you said you were never coming back to Hope Falls. She takes a step closer, and for a moment I think she's going to kiss me. Her face is so close to mine, her lips are almost touching. She smiles. I changed my mind. 25. Interviewer Sergeant Luke Carter. Interviewee Harrison Wolf. Date October 31st, 2025. Location Hope Falls Police Station. Thank you for coming in. I just want to state for the record again that you are under no obligation to be here. I need to know what happened to my wife. I understand, you said you had something to show me. Yes. For the tape, Mr. Wolf has taken 2 rings from his pocket. Her wedding ring and engagement ring. Eden left them behind. She always does. When she goes running, have you found her yet? I'm afraid not. The crazy woman outside my house yesterday who showed up again at the gallery claiming to be Eden then broke into our home and stole her car. Have you found her? No, but we have found the car. Where? Abandoned about a mile from Hope Falls. In Blackmore National Park. I'm just trying to establish the facts and understand how all of this fits together. Well, if you had arrested that woman in the first place, maybe none of this would have. I'm sorry to ask, but was there any possibility of an affair? An affair? Yes, who, me or my wife? Do you mean me? With that woman, or do you mean my wife? And someone else? Why do you think she committed suicide if nobody has found her? Did anyone actually see her jump? Shouldn't you be out looking for her? The Coast Guard is searching now, but due to the tides here it can sometimes take a long time for a body to wash up. Is that what you're trying to say? Jesus or Christ, I can't believe this is happening. As you say, we don't know for sure what has happened yet. Is it possible your wife might have just left? Left me, you mean? Could she have gone to visit someone without telling you? Is there a friend who might know where Eden is? Someone who would know her real state of mind? Are you saying I don't know my wife? She was fine, she was happy until the other woman showed up. Do you have any children? A daughter. What is her name? My daughter doesn't have anything to do with this. She's never even been to Hope Falls. She doesn't live with you. She's 18. I'd like to speak to her. I already told you. Her name and contact details would be very helpful. Fine, Gabriella. What? Why are you staring at me like that? The woman claiming to be your wife last night also said she had a daughter called Gabriella. Well, she was clearly deluded about many things. She pretended to be my wife, so why not pretend to be the mother of my child, too? Is there anyone else who might have had a grudge against you or your wife? Why are you asking me about grudges if you think she committed suicide? Am I right in thinking you still have a flat in London as well as your home here in Hope Falls? I don't think it's illegal yet to own 2 properties. No, but I imagine it must be expensive. Did your wife have life insurance? I think I'm going to leave now. If you have anything else to say to me, you can do it via my solicitor. 26. Birdie. I stop reading the transcript and close my laptop because my drink has arrived. I rather like my new office. The Smuggler's Inn is one of the oldest pubs in the country. I only know this because there's a sign on the wall behind the bar that says one of the oldest pubs in the country, and yet they do not know how to mix a mojito. The pub is indeed very old, but it has been redecorated recently. I can still smell the paint and the new soft furnishings are tasteful, if a little twee. There's another framed print behind the bar that says strangers are friends you have not yet met. What a crock of that is. Friends are strangers in waiting, if you ask me. Aside from the signage, I like the place, with its old-fashioned bar, open fire, and low ceilings with wooden beams. I also like that I'm the only person here. I take a sip of my drink and text Carter, see me in my office. You called, he says, walking into the pub 5 minutes later. Technically I texted, but thank you for coming so quickly. He stares at Sunday and I'm starting to think Carter does not like dogs. I thought you didn't drink, he says, eyeing my cocktail. What a good memory you have, and you're right, I don't. I know, a teetotal detective. Whatever next, this is a virgin mojito. Or at least an impression of one. I'd offered to buy you a cocktail, but you have work to do. I'm only halfway through the transcript of your interview with the husband, and I needed to ask you something. What's all this about a woman pretending to be Eden Fox? Yesterday, that's what I was trying to tell you. Last night I was called to Spyglass. You mean my grandmother's old house? Yes, Harrison Wolfe and Eden Fox